Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ask SplitSuit a Question. I'm James SplitSuit Sweeney here for thepokerbank.com, and today we're going to answer one of your questions. So today's question comes from Ron K, and Ron actually asked a three-parter, so this is going to be part one. And Ron says, I think a good idea for a video is adjusting ranges, depending on the players around you and their stack sizes. What types of hands should we play when there are fish in the blinds? So Ron, that's a great question, and there's really kind of three different situations where this will happen. When we're in early or middle position and there's a fish in the blinds, when we're stealing and there's a fish in the blind, and specifically when we're in the small blind and there's a fish in the big blind. So those are kind of the three main situations where this will happen. Now, if we're in a situation where we're in early or middle position and there's a fish in the blind, as a default, I'm going to use my typical raising range. I'm usually not going to change it too much because from early position specifically, it's usually going to be pretty strong side weighted, and from middle position, obviously, it's a little bit more variable. Just remember that in these situations, it's usually not just you and the fish, right? There's other players between you and that person. So you also need to consider them. Are they 3-betty? Are they also fishy? Are they nitty and they're just going to get out of your way a large chunk of the time? Keep those kind of things in mind as well. Now, when I'm raising from, say, early position and there's a fish in the blind, as a default, I'm going to use my typical raising range, just kind of my default opening range from that position. That's usually going to be pretty strong side weighted, and I'm going to be comfortable with that. But if it's a situation where I can raise from there and I think I can get heads up against that fish a large chunk of the time, then I'm actually going to open up the value part of my raising range from that situation. So say as a default, my raising range from early position consisted of ace jack and king queen. Well, if there's a situation where I think I can get the fish heads up to myself, then, and remember, we're going to have position on them because they're on the blinds, then that's a situation where I may widen it up to include things like ace 10, king jack, and maybe even a queen jack suited. Now, in saying that, we also want to be very cognizant of stack sizes. You did mention that in the original question, which is great. The shorter their stack size, the less I want to really start changing my range all that much, and usually the stronger I want to keep it, simply because against that shorter stack size, there's not as much maneuverability, less flexibility post-flop, less implied odds as well. So I want to choose hands that are going to perform well on a smaller SPR pot if they do have a shorter stack size. If they have more of just a normal stack size, then like I said, I'll keep that same strategy going through. Now, when I'm in later position and I'm stealing and there's a fish in the blind, I'm usually still going to be stealing relatively wide, but I'm not going to be stealing total trash. My 8-4 is off, my 10-3 suited, those kind of hands just aren't going to perform particularly well. Because remember, fish is going to call you more pre-flop, so you're going to have to see flops. And do I want to see that with total trash hands that hit like garbage? No, that's not really going to be very profitable for us. So in those kind of situations, I am still going to be stealing, but I'm not going to be stealing, say, 70% of the time. I'm probably going to tighten that up to maybe my top 30% of hands, top 25% of hands, something in that range. I'm not going to go totally nuts in a situation like that. And again, that's stealing from later position when there's a fish in the blind. If I'm in the small blind specifically and there's a fish in the big blind, then that's going to be a little bit different because post-flop they're going to have position on us. So I may even tighten up that stealing range just a pinch more because I can't expect those folds pre-flop. I don't really know if I'm going to be able to get those folds on the flop with a continuation bet or any sort of double or triple barrel. And again, do I really want to find myself in that situation with some really tough hands? Even like a 10-7 off is going to be incredibly difficult to play when you're out of position. You know you're going to go out of position post-flop a large chunk of the time. So as always, plan ahead. Think about how that fish is likely to react to your steal. Think about how post-flop's going to work out for you, how your hand's realistically going to perform, and how you can make profit in those situations. So Ron, thanks for the great question, and if you or anyone else has a poker-related question, feel free to leave them on our Google Plus page. I'll leave a link for that in the description box. And also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. Same as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there, and happy grinding!